Okay. Last week we began kind of like an introduction to this series that we're calling Identity Matters. We were in small groups, kind of having some discussion and reflection on identity and questions of identity. And so we're doing this series, Identity Matters, kind of at the same time that the church as a whole is doing the series, like on Sunday. And when I was younger, we used to call it Big Church. And Big Church, they're doing this same series, Identity Matters. It's based on a book. And if you're like me, or have like grown up in church for your whole life, or even have been in church for just some amount of time, you might have heard this word identity kind of thrown around a lot, like your identity in Christ, or having your identity be firm, or knowing what your identity is. And so it's a word that in church is thrown around a lot. But I started to realize when I prepped for this kind of series and was thinking about it, I was like, what even is identity? Like, identity is a really hard word to define when I sat down to actually think about it. So does anyone want to try to give it a shot? Try to define, like in one sentence, identity. Liv? Who you are? Yeah? Anyone else? Thomas?
What makes you, you. In my case, an art.
What makes you, you. That's awesome. Anyone else? Anyone? Cool. So those are good definitions. So like I do a lot of times when I'm kind of looking at a word, I just like Google it to see what the definition is. And so it's not, yeah, can you just click on I might have to clear all. Well, you can kind of see it. It's the fact of being who or what a person or thing is. The fact of being who or what a person, thing is. Okay, that doesn't make any sense. What does, like those words like put in that order just like me, I don't know if I'm the only one, but they just like don't mean anything to me. Like I'm just like, can't comprehend them. I spent probably like 15 minutes reading the sentence when I was preparing, and I was just like, you're 12 words here, and I really can't put together what the fact of being who or what a person or thing is. That's like really confusing. And then I spent 15 more minutes probably just trying to make up my own definition. I still couldn't do that. So the point is that identity is a really hard word to define. So instead of just like giving you a simple definition that you can just like package up and take home with you, I want to kind of approach identity and what it is kind of from the back door, because that's, as we're starting the series, I just want to establish what identity is. Before we talk about trying to have an identity and all this, we need to know what identity is. So I don't want to give you a definition. I want to kind of go in from the back door, tell you some stories and experiences, and hopefully that will help you flesh out what identity is. And the first thing that I want to do is show you some commercials. Does anyone like TV commercials? Does anyone dislike TV commercials? Okay, more of you that way. I don't have cable right now where I live, and in college I didn't really watch much TV, so really the only time I watch commercials is during the Super Bowl, which is like a good time to watch commercials, so I don't really mind it. But I want to show you a few commercials, and then we'll kind of talk about them after, okay? So let's watch a few.
And there's your beautiful
You're eating Doritos? He's eating Doritos on my ultrasound. Do you see what I have to do?
I know.
Give me that.
Okay, so that's our first commercial for Doritos. That's our first commercial. I don't know if this is working. Oh, okay, here's our next one. Alright, so that's commercial number 2. Commercial number 3, you can show.
Hello, ladies. Look at you. Now back to me. Now back to me. Sadly, he isn't me. But if he stopped using lady-scented body wash and switched to Old Spice, he would smell like he's new. Look down. Back up. Where are you? You're on a boat with the man your man can smell it. What's in your hand? Back at me. I am. It's an oyster with 2 tickets to that thing you love. Look again. The tickets are now diamond. Anything is possible when your man smells like Old Spice and not a lady. I'm on a horse.
Okay, so that's, you can just go to the blank screen. I don't know if that was popular like when I was in high school, I think. I don't know if it's a newer one, but that at the very end he just goes, I'm on a horse. And that was like a thing me and my friends used to say, I'm on a horse. It was fun. Okay, one more, this is a funny one. Hopefully you guys get like the sense of humor in this. Maybe not, but I think it's funny.
We all know we shouldn't use cotton swabs to clean or dry our ears. They even warn us, but we do it anyway. Stop. Here's a introducing Waxback, a 750 way to clean and dry your ears.
Yes, Waxback.
Help your whole family feel better and keep your ears healthier. Here's how it works. Unlike cotton swabs, which push dirt and harmful wax further into your ear and puncture your eardrum, ouch! Waxback gently draws dirt particles and moisture out of your ear rather than pushing it in. There's nothing else like it. Waxback is quiet. Listen. Safe, it's your prevents it going too deep like an ear thermometer, and effective. See how gently it vacs water and dirt, leaving your ears clean and dry. And just empty it out when you're done. Warn against using cotton swabs to clean your ears.
Don't use a cotton swab in your ear because it can cause significant damage.
Never use water in their ears. Don't pound your head. Use Waxback instead.
I know I shouldn't use cotton swabs to clean my ears. Waxback seems like the perfect solution.
Sometimes cotton swabs hurt. If they like it, I love it.
What a great idea. Waxback just makes sense.
Stop using other ear cleaners that don't work, and stop using cotton swabs that can damage your ears. Call the $10. Every Waxback comes with 8 soft color-coded silicone tips for every member of the family, and this cleaning brush free.
All right.
Has this powerful sealing line, but wait, we all know we shouldn't use it.
Okay, so those are commercials. The funny thing about that commercial is that they weren't trying to be funny, and it's just like, I love when infomercials, when they show like the black and white scene, or this, for some reason it's blue and white, I don't know why, and they're just like so dramatic. He's like, no! And it's like, yes, exactly, it's like that's not gonna happen. Okay, so commercials are funny, and these commercials were, bring it back in. They were lighthearted and make us laugh, and we can joke about them. But at the end of the day, what are commercials trying to do? What are they trying to do? Yeah. Exactly, they're trying to sell you something. All commercials are trying to sell you something. That's why a company pays money to have a commercial, so that you buy their product. In order to sell you something, they try to send us a message. The message that they're sending us is that your life as it is right now is not enough. Your life is not good enough. You need a Volkswagen, or you need a bag of Doritos, or you need Old Spice body wash, or you need a Waxback. Guys, listen. What these commercials, as funny as they are and lighthearted is, they're telling us this message, whether we sense it or not, is that your life right now, as it is not enough. Like, you need to add something to your life in order for it to be better, in order for it to be good, enjoyable, and fun. Because where you are right now, this is what these commercials are saying, it's not enough. You don't measure up just as you are. We need to give you something else to make your life better, right? Does that make sense? And so that's one way that our identity is shaped, is this message that as you are right now is not enough. You, just being you, doing the normal things that you do, is not enough. So that's the first way that our identity is shaped. So I haven't given you a definition yet, but hopefully that helps a little start to understand that our identity can be shaped when people tell us that you are not enough. There's another way that our identity is shaped, and I want to tell you a little story. So when I was in high school, I started playing golf a lot. I was a really big baseball player, played like through not really big, I was pretty short actually, but I really liked it. I played like all through sophomore year. I was on like a bunch of different teams every year and just like played it all the time. But then I started to play golf with my dad and some friends, and I like fell in love with it. So I stopped playing baseball for the school, started playing golf instead, and I like couldn't get enough of it. I remember like every summer my mom would take me and some friends to the golf course at like the crack of dawn, like 6:15 a.m. We'd get the first tee time. It's like there's still dew on the ground. It's still kind of cold out, even though it's a summer day. The sun is just coming up. And we'd play like 18 holes of golf, which takes like 4 hours or so. And then we'd like eat lunch at the golf course, and then we'd play 18 more holes, and we'd like eat dinner there, and like play around on the putting green. We'd literally be there from sun up to sundown. I like couldn't get enough of it. And I would go home and I would like watch the golf channel. It sounds like an obsession now that I'm saying it, but I don't know, I couldn't get enough of it. I loved golf. And so in my head I was like, man, I love this so much. I want to try to play this in college. And so I started looking around at schools where I could play golf. And Messiah College ended up being the place where I could do that. And so I was really excited. I was like, I get to do something I love, get to play it with other people at a school. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I played for a year or so, and then I started to get this sense after my first year, I was like, man, like, golf's not as fun as it used to be. Like, for some reason, I'm not having as much fun. And I realized because it was such a like competitive environment, it's a D3 school, so I'm not that good, but it's still competitive. The coach expects a lot of you. There's some really good players in D3 schools. And I realized that I wasn't having as much fun because I was always being compared to someone else. Because I could go out there and play around and have a lot of fun and feel like I did really well and be really proud of myself. But then I come back to the coach and I'm like, oh, this is the score I got. And he's like, oh, sorry, someone did better than you. And all of a sudden, like the balloon is just, or the air is just out of my balloon. Like, I thought I did great, but then when I'm compared to someone else, it's like, oh no, your score's not really important anymore. You don't really matter anymore. And so this thing that was really fun, became this thing where it's like, you only matter in relation to someone else. Like you, yourself, your score doesn't matter unless it's better than someone else's score, right? So that's all that mattered. And that was really hard for me, and I ended up not playing golf anymore because of it. But the same is true like in the world. There's this message sent to us that you only matter, your score in life. You only matter if it's better than someone else. You only matter if you have more friends than someone else, or if you're funnier than someone else, or if you get better grades, or if you're better at sports, or a better singer. The world's telling us that you only matter, you're only important if you can beat someone else. And so it gave me this like competition outlook on all of life, and I think that happens to a lot of us, where like outside of sports, not just sports, I started to see everything as a competition and always tried to measure myself compared to someone else. And so I started this job at McBick almost a year ago, last May of 2017. And Cody, our high school pastor, had already started at that point. I think he started like a month before me. And Cody and I knew each other pretty well before I started working here and he started working here. He led this group that I was a part of at Messiah, and he kind of served as my mentor for a few years, and got to lead worship at retreats and stuff. And so Cody and I knew each other pretty well. But when we first started the job, I realized that I was falling into this competition mindset. Because if you know Cody, he's a pretty like dynamic, energetic, outgoing speaker. He's like really, really engaging. If you hear him listen, he's been doing it for years and years and years, and God has given him this awesome gift. And instead of seeing Cody's gift and his uniqueness and the talent that he has, I instead was over here saying, man, like, I'm not as like dynamic as Cody. I can't engage a crowd like Cody can. Like, I don't know how I'm going to do this job well if Cody's always like has a one-up on me, if he's always like captivating crowds better than I was. And so I realized that this like competition mindset kind of invaded every part of my life. And I think we do that. I think we probably have all experienced that, where we look at someone else and we say, I'm not valuable just for who I am. I'm only valuable in relation to that person. And so my value stopped where Cody's began, right? Because I was only valuable to the point where Cody started being more valuable than me, right? So hopefully that helps a little bit to kind of, again, I haven't given you a definition of identity yet, but hopefully that helps you shape that there's this message that, first of all, you are not enough as you are. You need to add things to your life. And the second way that our identity is shaped is that you need to compare yourself to others in order to measure up. So those are the first two ways. And also, in addition to looking at other people and being like, man, like I'm not as good as them, I don't measure up to them, it can also go the other way. And we look at people and say, oh, like I'm so much better than them. They can't do this thing as well as me. And that's just as harmful for us too. So it goes both ways. So hopefully this helps you kind of understand what identity is. by telling you how our identity is kind of attacked and shaped. Hopefully that helps you understand what it is. But more than just knowing what it is, we think that identity matters. That's the name of the series. So we need to talk about why does it matter. You might know what it is, identity being this thing. What defines you? Okay, is it what I'm good at? Is it how many things I have? Is it how many friends I have? How good I am at school? What defines you is a good way to describe identity. But why does it matter? And to talk about why it matters, we need to talk about houses. Okay, we need to talk about houses. The other day I was on YouTube and I saw like a video for this, like a house tour. This guy named Zed. You guys know who Zed is? He does that song, "Why don't you just meet me in the middle?"
Yeah.
That song. Yeah, so that's Zed. He's like a DJ producer guy. And said, Zed's $16 million house tour, or something like that. So $16 million, we just like throw around the word million a lot, but that's so much money, $16 million. So I want to show you a little clip of Zed's house. I think it's like a 10-minute video, but I'm only going to show you like 2 minutes, okay? So if Nate, you can play that video.
Yeah, so the way this is structured for me is that this section of the house is work. The bottom part will be the studio. The top part is the gym, indoor and outdoor. This section of the house is living, and this is like sleeping. This is the small door to the house. You can, when you open it, decide whether you want to go here or here. I'll go here. The pool has to be at 97 degrees. That's just how pools should be. The hot tub is in the pool, and you can't really see it when the overflow is on. And then when you turn it over to jacuzzi mode, then the water level just lowers slightly, and then the jacuzzi stands out. So this place was built kind of like a resort. All the guest bedrooms are all back to back, and everybody has direct access to the pool. And then there's 4 ovens for, I don't know, when you want to make 4 cakes at the same time, I guess. This is the stove, and a little story about this little guy here. I had never seen these before. It's a pot filler, so you don't have to, put water in it and carry it. You just can do it right here. That's when I knew that I wanted the house, because I thought that if somebody thought about this, they probably thought about other things too. There's water. It's magic. This is the reason I bought the house. Along here in the kitchen and in the preparation kitchen, there's built-in vacuums, so if you prepare food and you drop something, you just kick it in and it goes through to the central vacuum, which is hidden in the server room. This is the main living area. This is where we spend most of the time. It is, no surprise at this point anymore, but it does have a fireplace as well. It has the view, the incredible view, and it's just very cozy and livable. And then in this corner we have another table, which is the board game table. It's dedicated specifically to play board games like Risk. It can be used for other things too, but really this is the board game table.
Okay, so that's Zed's $60 million house. There's a lot of other stuff. And now you'll notice that Zed's house has every bell, every whistle that you can think of. Honestly, my favorite is like the kitchen vacuum, because I drop stuff in my kitchen all the time. I'm like, I don't want to pick that up. So I just like kick it, but it doesn't get sucked up. It just like goes under the little ledge. So that's a pretty good idea. But it has every bell, every whistle that you could think of. It has the awesome pool. It has, they didn't show this part, but it has a Skittles machine where you just walk up to it and it dispenses Skittles. It's pretty cool. There's one thing that Zed doesn't talk about. You can watch the whole video. There's one thing he doesn't talk about. The foundation of the house. This is a foundation, Nate, if you want to put, so this is a picture of the foundation, I guess when they first started. I don't know much about building. Maybe you can ask like Brad or something. I don't know if this is accurate. But this is the foundation. It's these big slabs of concrete that they kind of sink into the ground and then they cover it up. You can go to the next picture and it looks a little bit like this before they start building the house. And the foundation kind of serves as like the platform on which to build the rest of the house. So you use that as like the starting point to build the rest of the house. And the foundation is important because if your foundation is cracked or your foundation is a little like off-centered, like the higher you build up, the more magnified that's going to be. And so your house is going to be uneven or your house is going to be unsturdy. And so the foundation is the most important part of the house. If you can't, if you don't have a good foundation to your house, you're going to be unsafe and it's going to be in danger of losing value and of causing harm to people. So your foundation needs to be strong and needs to be sturdy, but no one ever talks about the foundation, right? Why? Because you can't see it. We couldn't see Zed's foundation. We saw everything on the outside that looked awesome and that looked fun and that looked valuable, and it'd be like, that would be awesome if I had that, people would love me. But we never talk about the foundation because it's not fancy. It's just a slab of gray concrete. It's not very attractive, but it's so, so important to a house. It's so important that you have a strong foundation. And the same is true with our identity. Our identity is like the foundation of our house, the foundation of our life. If our identity isn't strong, if it's not sturdy, if it's broken a little bit, then everything else that we do in life is going to be in danger. Because everything else that we add on to our life, add on to the foundation, those things will go away. One day, Cody's not going to be as great of a speaker as he is right now. One day, I'm not going to be as good at golf as I am right now. One day, although I'm not very good right now, I'm pretty rusty. One day, you're not going to have as many friends as you have. One day, you're not going to be able to play like the viola like you do right now. One day, all of these things, all these bells and whistles that you have in life, the vacuums on the floor, the Skittles machine, one day those things are going to fall apart. But the thing that no one can take away from you, despite how old you are, despite how much you've done, the one thing that can't be taken away from you is that you are a child of God, that God has created you. He knows you and He loves you. No matter what happens in your life, that can't be taken away. And so if we use that as the foundation of our life, that I'm a child of God, God loves me, no matter where we go in life, that can't be moved. And so we need to make sure that that is our foundation, that we know I'm a child of God, I am loved, and no matter what people say about me, no matter how many times I fail, I don't have to earn God's love, I don't have to work for it, but He loves us. There's this verse in Matthew, it comes after Jesus' baptism. So before Jesus does anything, before He performs any miracles, before He feeds people, before He does any awesome teaching, Jesus is baptized, and He comes up out of the water, and this voice comes down from heaven, and it's God's voice. It says, "This is my Son, whom I love. I am well pleased with Him." And so God knew more than anything that your foundation needs to be in Him. Even Jesus needed to know that. And He told him that before He did anything, so that it would serve as the foundation. He didn't say, "Jesus, I love you because all of the people you fed and all of the miracles you did and all of the awesome teaching that you've given." God didn't say that's why He loved him. He loved him because He's His Son and because He's His child. And so that's where I want us to land tonight, is that we matter, we're important to God, despite what we're good at, despite what people think of us. Despite where we fail, despite where we do great, God loves us because He's made us and He knows us. One day, all the things that we can find value in, we don't get to take that with us after we're gone. Those things will go away. So that's where I want us to land, is that is our identity in what people say about us and what we're good at? Or is our identity in being a child of God and being loved by the one who made us? Let's pray.